An affluent husband becomes the main suspect in the disappearance of his wife's lovers. After his morning workout, Vic finds his wife, Melinda, staring at him. Later, their daughter, Trixie, plays a nursery rhyme, but this annoys Melinda. As the babysitter arrives, Melinda orders her daughter to turn off the music. Upstairs, Melinda asks Vic's opinion on what to wear for the soiree, but he tells her she looks beautiful in what she's wearing. As he's helping her put on her heels, she tells him that she loves him, but he doesn't reciprocate. At the soiree, the couple shares with their friends that they let Trixie decide on enrolling in a public school. Later, Vic observes Melinda, who greets a young man named Joel. He follows them and finds them making out outside. Melinda stops as she notices her husband watching them. A concerned friend named Mary approaches Vic, noticing that Melinda and Joel got together in such a short time. Melinda suddenly invites Vic to dance, but he says he doesn't want to ruin her evening, so she leaves with Joel. Mary reveals to Vic that Joel was invited because Melinda asked their friends. She wonders if Melinda and Joel are intimate, but Vic isn't concerned about it. Afterward, Joel greets Vic and calls him nice for allowing him to see his wife. Vic is offended by this, but Joel goes on that most husbands would have been jealous. Pissed, Vic mentions Martin McRae, who disappeared around town. He hints that Martin dated Melinda, so he killed him. Joel grows concerned, thinking it's not funny to joke about their friend, but Vic clarifies that he wasn't friends with Martin. Suddenly, Melinda sees Joel storming off. As they're going home, Melinda asks Vic what he and Joel talked about, but he dodges the question. His wife believes that he said something, as Joel was different after they spoke. Upon arriving home, Vic pays the babysitter, but Melinda starts removing her dress and goes to the kitchen. Seeing this, Vic blocks her as the babysitter can see her. Pissed, Melinda hurries to the bedroom. In bed, Vic helps Melinda change clothes and comments that she should have picked someone intelligent. Melinda reveals that despite Joel being dumb, he allows her to enjoy herself, which turns her on. The next day, Trixie works on her science experiment, so Melinda comments that she'll be like her father, who builds bombs. Trixie defends that Vic doesn't make bombs but computer chips. After Vic sends Trixie to school, a neighbor named Kristen greets him and jokes that he should have called her to cover up for his crime of murdering Martin. Vic clarifies that it's a joke. At lunch, his friends Jonas and Grant comment about the rumor. Back home, Melinda confronts Vic about threatening Joel. She cries that Martin was her friend, so he shouldn't be joking about him. Vic apologizes, but she demands that he also apologizes to Joel, whom she's inviting to dinner on Friday. On Friday, Joel arrives, but Vic claims that it'll just be the two of them. This makes Joel worried until Vic clarifies that it was a joke. Trixie asks who he is, so Vic introduces Joel as her mother's friend, like Martin McRae. Joel shares that he's got a job in New Mexico, so he'd be leaving town. Vic then declares it's his last supper, so he'll cook lobster bisque. However, Joel mentions that he's allergic to shellfish. Since Joel is allergic to his dish, Vic made him grilled cheese. Melinda grabs a piece, claiming that she doesn't like lobster bisque. She praises Vic's grilled cheese, so he teases that she has the appetite of a 12-year-old. Melinda comments that Vic isn't normal since he can't let things go. He defends that if he were normal, he wouldn't have dinner with her lover. Feeling uneasy, Joel goes to the restroom. Suddenly, Melinda tells Trixie to go to bed and asks Vic to read her bedtime stories, surprising her husband. Before she sleeps, Trixie asks Vic why her mother acts differently around other people. Vic thinks that it's just who she is, but this confuses his daughter. Afterward, Vic sees Melinda having fun with Joel. He goes to the kitchen and intentionally drops a plate to ruin their moment. Melinda checks on him and insists that she does the dishes in the morning, clearly wanting him to go while she spends time with her lover. She then pours Joel a drink and requests Vic to hand it to him as she'll leave for a moment. Alone with Vic, Joel asks if he'll apologize for threatening him. Vic, however, doesn't want to and insists that he did kill Martin McRae with a hammer. Suddenly, Vic declares that Joel's Uber is here. One day, at another party, the family meets Noir writer Don Wilson and his young wife, Kelly. When asked about his work, Vic reveals that he's retired, and Melinda adds that it's because he invented a computer chip used for warfare. Don comments that it's unethical, but Vic tells him that he just made the chip. Concerned, Don shares that drones are used to kill innocent people. Vic believes that it might be used to send food to starving children. As they head home, Melinda comments that Vic had fun with Kelly. She asks if he wants to sleep with her, but he replies that it's not what he thinks. Jealous, Melinda goes down on him while he's driving, asking him if he thinks Kelly is good in bed. Vic doesn't respond, so she hurts him. When they arrive home, Vic and Melinda get intimate. The next day, the couple watches their daughter play soccer. Vic suddenly gets a call from the bank, stating that Melinda's account has insufficient funds to cover the $3,000 check issued to Charlie D. Lyle for piano lessons. Suspicious, Vic calls different establishments and learns that Charlie will be performing at the Oak Tree Lounge. At the lounge, Vic observes Charlie playing the piano. Melinda arrives and sits near Charlie, unaware that her husband is there. Vic arrives home, where he sees Melinda's wedding ring by the sink. He also hears the news that Martin's corpse was found. Later, Melinda arrives home and claims that she had dinner with her new friend, whom she believes that Vic will like. The next day, Vic and Trixie adopt a dog. On their way home, Trixie wonders about her mother, so Vic assures her that she's just sad about her friend's passing. As he's driving, Vic notices Charlie walking by with flowers in his hand. At their house, Vic sees the same flowers on the table, so he angrily throws them away. Keen on observing Charlie, he goes to the Oak Tree Lounge with Grant, revealing that Charlie gives Melinda piano lessons, which Grant immediately understands the meaning of. The following day, Vic pours coffee for his wife, only to find her bed empty. Melinda soon sneaks back home, so Vic demands why she didn't come home last night and why she issued a check to Charlie. She dodges the questions, so Vic demands what she's doing. Melinda comments that her husband is finally showing some emotion and dares him to ask her directly what she's doing with Charlie. Vic reminds her that they have a daughter, but Melinda points out that it was his choice to have one. Still, he demands her to stop seeing Charlie. Unthreatened, Melinda dares him to divorce her, but he refuses, asserting that she must listen to him. Teasing his sudden assertiveness, Melinda starts flirting with him but assumes that he can't make love to her because that requires passion. He angrily tells her that he does love her. Soon, the couple attends a pool party where Charlie is invited. Melinda gladly introduces him to everyone and urges him to play a song on the piano. Afterward, Melinda introduces him to Charlie. When asked if they've already met, Vic denies it. That night, Vic finds Melinda and Charlie sneaking out to the pool. He watches them swim and have fun. Rain falls, so everyone goes inside, leaving Vic and Charlie at the pool. Later, Vic goes inside the house. Melinda starts looking for Charlie and screams upon finding him floating in the pool. The men immediately lift him but accidentally drop him, making Charlie hit his head on the floor. Vic performs CPR, but a hysterical Melinda screams that he's not doing it right. Moments later, Deputy Clark interrogates them, so Grant explains that he and Vic were the last to leave the pool. Suddenly, Melinda accuses Vic of killing Charlie. Chief Nichols decides to get all their accounts to know everyone's sides. He interrogates Vic privately. Vic claims that he doesn't know if Melinda slept with Charlie and declares that he loves her for who she is, so he doesn't question her about such things. On the way home, Melinda cries and slaps Vic. When they arrive home, Vic confronts Melinda if she wants a divorce and adds that she should be afraid of him if she thinks he killed Charlie. Melinda confidently says no since she's the one he killed him for. Next day, after sending Trixie off to school, Vic is approached by Kelly, who reveals that Dawn thinks he killed Charlie. Because of this, Vic invites them over for dinner. The Wilsons soon arrive at the couple's residence. While at his snail farm, Vic tells Dawn to refrain from spreading accusations, insisting that Charlie accidentally died in the pool. Dawn, however, suspects that he drowned Charlie. Dawn challenges him to take a lie detector test, and Vic obliges. The next day, Vic passes by the same car that was following him, parked near a restaurant. Inside is a camera, convincing him that he's being investigated. He then sees Melinda in the restaurant, so he joins her at the table. Surprised, Melinda introduces him to a psychotherapist named David. Suspicious, Vic excuses himself but asks David for a business card, which the man doesn't have. Vic barges into Don's house days later, confronting him about David. He accuses him of hiring David as a private investigator, showing a bank record of Melinda transferring money to Don's account. This angers Kelly, so she apologizes to Vic. Not long after, Vic sees Melinda with a man named Tony Cameron, so he follows them. Back home, Trixie asks her father what it was like to drown Charlie, but he doesn't admit it. Trixie shares that everyone asks her how Vic did it, so Vic reminds her that he'd be in prison for the rest of his life if he really killed Charlie. Afterward, Vic overhears Melinda talking to someone who's inviting her to Brazil. She assures the caller that Trixie would get used to the place too. She then tells the person she loves him, and Vic grips the railings in anger. The next day, Tony greets Vic at his snail farm, which's there to meet up with Melinda. While waiting for her in the kitchen, Tony shares with Vic that he creates sustainable living spaces for the next generation. Melinda then greets Tony and reveals that he's her ex, assuring Tony that Vic doesn't care about that stuff. Tony sympathizes with Vic as he knows that Melinda's difficult to control, but adds that it's what makes her special. After dinner, Vic quietly tidies up while Melinda and Tony have fun. Seething in quiet rage, Vic watches them head up to Melinda's room. One day, Vic drives up to Tony and tells him that Melinda wants him to see a building site. Hesitantly, Tony gets in the car. Vic carelessly drives to a remote forest trail. When they arrive, Vic throws a rock at his head. Seeing blood, Tony apologizes and pleads for his life, but Vic throws a rock at him, making him fall off the cliff. He takes Tony's wallet and ties him with a rock before submerging him in water. Vic soon arrives home, where he talks to Melinda about Tony as if nothing happened. When Melinda starts worrying about Tony, Vic claims that he hasn't seen him. As everything's going smoothly, Vic prepares photographs in his office. When he meets with his family, Trixie announces that they're going on a picnic at the gorge. During their picnic, Melinda contemplates why Vic is the only man who wants to stay with her. Vic hands her an album of her photographs. This makes Melinda happy, so she kisses him. When Vic hears Trixie, he goes to check on her. As Trixie heads back to her mother, Vic spots Tony's corpse emerging from the water. Heading home, Melinda realizes that she left her scarf, so Vic promises to get it tomorrow. That night, Melinda invites her husband to sleep in her room, which leads them to get intimate. The next morning, Vic rushes to the gorge. Meanwhile, Melinda looks for Vic in his snail farm but finds Tony's wallet. At the gorge, Vic gets a stick to submerge Tony's corpse. Don sees him, so he excuses that he's searching for Melinda's scarf. Suddenly, the corpse surfaces, so Don rushes to his car. Vic chases after him with his bike. At home, Melinda becomes mournful of her husband's behavior, so she packs her things. However, Trixie takes her mother's luggage and throws it at the pool. In the forest, Don reaches for his phone while driving to text his wife, but Vic stumbles on the road. This leads Don to go off the cliff and die from the crash. Vic leaves. When he arrives home, Melinda stares at him. Before heading upstairs, she calmly claims that she saw Tony.
Thank you for watching.